Shalom. A prophetic counsel to Nigerians. The wisdom of unity over division and the future of a nation. Dividing Nigeria is not the best. Here is the way out. Hear this, all Nigerians. Many are agitating for division because of religious conflict and insurgency. But have you looked at the end results? Have you weighed the conclusion of division before praying for its beginning? For wisdom is not proven at the point of anger, but at the point where consequences are seen before the divisions are made. In these critical times, many voices are crying out for the division of Nigeria because of religious conflicts, insecurity, and political injustice. A vast number of people are agitating for a nation of their own. These cries come from a real pain, but pain must never be allowed to lead a nation into irreversible error. Wisdom demands that we look beyond the present storm and see the end from the beginning. Scripture teaches us that there were many prophets in old times, but only a few carried a political wisdom, the divine insight to navigate the affairs of nations, to interpret national destiny, and advise kings with foresight, and to see nations as God sees them. Among them were Joseph and Daniel, men who understood that nations are preserved not by emotion, but by divine insights and righteous counsel. Daniel understood empires. Joseph understood economic and seasons. In our time, this rare mantle was visible in Prophet T.B. Joshua of blessed memory, a prophet who never gave counsel without first consulting God and beholding the end results of every action. He always looked beyond the present storm to the final outcome. Before he spoke on matters of nations, he sought the face of God and weighed the consequences before releasing counsel. God, who sees the end from the beginning, shows him what many could not see by divine arrangements from someone who sat under his mentorship. As I reflected on his legacy and the critical hour Nigeria faces in 2026, the Lord spoke to me. Such political wisdom has been deposited in you. Such political wisdom must not be hidden, but spoken. This message is therefore not born of opinion, but of burden. I am mandated to pass this counsel to the political leaders of Nigeria and the foreign powers watching our thoughts, so they do not make a monumental mistake by trying to correct the situation at hand. When I speak, I don't speak for one tribe, not for one religion, but for Nigeria as a country. A wise prophet sees as God sees, just as God once told Samuel, you are seen as men sees. So here is the prophetic counsel for Nigeria. Nigeria is a nation interwoven by God, not by accident. Nigeria is not a random arrangement of people. She's a nation woven together by divine providence. Christians and Muslims are not separated by borders, but are mixed at every level of life. Nigeria is a tapestry of 3 tiers of government: federal, state, and local governments, with over 250 ethnic groups. Division will not end religious conflicts. It will amplify it. Nigeria is a nation of many cultures and various religions, but two dominant faiths are Christianity and Islam. At the federal level, governance is shared among Christians and Muslims. At the state level, religion coexists. At the local government level, families, markets, and communities are intermingled. Every Nigerian has a place of origin, a local government tied to ancestry, language, culture, and identity. If Nigeria were divided along religious lines, the question God asks is simple. Where will the people go? Where will the Christians of the north belong? Where will the Muslims of the south settle? Will people abandon their ancestral lands because of faith? Such movements would not bring peace. It would bring new conflicts, new exclusions, and new bloodshed. Over time, the same religious mixture would reemerge, and the same cry for division would rise again. This is not wisdom. It is a cycle of destruction. A house divided against itself does not stand. It collapses repeatedly. This counsel is for Nigerian political leaders and for foreign powers entangled in Nigerians' affairs. Do not attempt to correct a crisis by creating a greater one. This is one reason why Nigeria cannot be divided. The identity trap. If you divide Nigeria into Muslim north and Christian south, what happens to the Christians of the north? Will they abandon their ancestral lands, homes, cultures, languages, and histories to become refugees in the south? 2. Minority crisis. What of the Muslims in the south? If they migrate, they become strangers in a land not their home. Dividing Nigeria will only bring about an endless cycle. Division rarely stops at one line. Once you break the bond, minorities within the new nations will begin their own agitations. You will end up dividing the country over and over again until nothing is left. Dividing Nigeria is not wisdom. It is a postponed chaos. A prophetic warning to secessionist movements. A word to IPOB and all agitators. To those advocating separation, including the leaders and the followers of IPOB. Hear this with understanding and not offense. Nations building is heavier than protects. Independence does not automatically bring peace. When parents fail to correct their mistakes with wisdom, they push their children towards greater disasters. Starting a nation requires unity, institutions, patience, and grace. Without this, freedom becomes chaos. History is filled with examples of people who escape one oppression only to fall into another, often worse. True wisdom demands learning from previous errors. Look at South Sudan, where independence led to perpetual conflicts, or the former Yugoslavia, where division caused a 20% drop in GDP per capita. To the leaders of IPO and all agitators, starting a nation is not a slogan, it is a burden. To be least among nations is a long and painful road. Building a new nation from zero is a path of storms. When parents fail to correct mistakes, they push their children into greater ones. Instead of pushing our children into bigger mistakes, we must restructure. Nigeria belongs to all Nigerians. What we need is not separation, but restructuring with justice. Speak, dialogue, negotiate. For no one knows what is wrong in a house until those inside speak. Here is President Bola Tinubu. God said he entrusts you with such a responsibility. That was why he gave you so much experience over the years. You are such a man that everyone would likely listen to because of your age counts. If I was to meet you in person, I would have tell you why God chose you as the right man for the season. Do everything within your power to hold the nation as one. God has already shown the world what happens when division is embraced without wisdom. History offers painful lessons. Sudan and South Sudan. Freedom came, but peace did not follow. Oil weights could not prevent civil war. Economic collapse. Civil war erupted, followed despite oil wealth. Millions required humanitarian aid, famine, and displacement. The land was divided, but the hearts were not killed. Hear this: one break led to many breaks. Ethnic identity became a weapon. What began as self-determination ended in graves, refugees, and shattered economics. These are not distinct stories. They are warnings, lessons from history. Sudan and South Sudan, independence in 2011, did not bring peace. Instead, civil war erupted. Yugoslavia division led to repeated fragmentation, ethnic wars, long-term economic decline. These examples shows that division often creates many problems as it claims to solve. Let's look at the economic cost of breaking Nigeria apart. Nigeria is Africa's largest economy and market. Division would trigger several economic stops, loss of collective bargaining power with institutions like the IMF and World Bank. Two, it will weaken or unstable new currencies valuable to inflation. Territory barriers that would cripple informal traders who move goods across regions. Four, fiscal collapse risk. For regions currently depending on shared oil revenue, new borders would disrupt supply chain from Lagos to Kano, Onitsha to the north, and the Niger Delta to the entire federation. What currently works as a single economic engine would become fragmented and inefficient. Security, regional stability, and humanitarian risk. Division would also pose major security threats, such as border disputes over resource-rich or mixed areas. Eternal displacement, as millions suddenly becomes foreigners in their own homes. Weakened regional influence, it will reduce Nigerians' role as stabilizing force within the ECOWAS. A divided Nigeria will struggle to contain insurgency, banditry, and extremism risks that will split across West Africa. Division is not only a political heart, it has a spiritual consequences. Economically, breaking Nigeria apart will scatter the strength of a unified market, weaken currencies through isolation, destroy livelihood, build an eternal regional trade. Here is God's alternative. We need true federalism and righteous governance. The Spirit of God does not point towards division, but towards restructuring with justice. True federalism allows power to return to the people. regions to develop at their own pace, resources to be managed responsibly, unity to be preserved without oppression. This path carries the benefits of autonomy without the cost of fragmentation. The better alternative through federalism. The solution to Nigeria's crisis is not division, but through federalism, a system where states has great control over their resources. Power is dissolved from the center to the regions. Development reflects local priorities while maintaining national unity. Here is the way out. Prophetic Counsel for United Nigeria. 1. A constitutional restructuring. We need one law system under the canopy of Nigeria that protects both Muslims and Christians equally. Executed without partiality. One law for all Nigerians, Christian or Muslims. Enforced without favoritism. 2. Religious freedom. Religion must be by choice, not by force. Respected across all tiers of government. Faith must never be forced, even within families. Belief must be a choice. 3. Hate speech accountability. There should be a mutual respect for all religions. Abusive speech against any religion must be met with strict legal consequences. 4. Sanctity of life. Murder, religious or otherwise, is a crime against God and nation. Therefore, any killing in the name of religious or otherwise must be treated as a capital crime. Targeting the roots, sponsors of insurgency, and those linking information or sheep violence must face the same judgment as the insurgents themselves. Cattle management reforms. End open grazing. Establish strict laws for ranching and professional transportation of livestock to protect farmers' crops and urban streets. Compensation for damage and strict reinforcement of law must be made. Anti-vigilantism. Strict laws must prevent citizens from taking the laws into their hands. No self-justice. Government alone must enforce the law. Institutional accountability. Authorities who fail to act on reported cases must be disciplined. Let me take this again. Any official who ignore reported crimes must be disciplined. Inclusive politics. Power must not be the birthright of major groups. Power must not belong to one group. Leadership must be open from the local to the federal levels. Resource equity. Every Nigerian must benefit from their natural resources. From the federal level down to the grassroots, every Nigerian must benefit from national wealth. Compulsory education. Education is enlightenment. It must be a mandatory right for every child. No child should be left behind, especially in rural areas. Rural empowerment. Support the Nigerians' rural farmers. Government should support our rural farmers. They are the backbone of our food security. Government should support the farmers. The land is fertile. Brotherly love and collective security. Government must protect the citizens, and the citizens must protect one another. Leadership integrity. Fight corruption with clean hands. A corrupt leader covers corruption. Only a clean hands can fight and confront a dirty system. Detribalized governance. Leadership beyond tribe and religion. Development must be balanced, not biased. A leader is for everyone, not just their tribe or state. Development must be shared equally to foster unity. Development must be balanced and not buyers, innovative power solution. Our power sector must partner with refineries to convert heat and waste into electrical energy. Nigeria as a nation should learn to convert industrial heat and waste to electricity. Waste across the nation can be collected and converted into heat for electrical energy. Youth engagements to stop the spread of falsehood and crime. The government must create industries to occupy the youths. Productivity cures crime better than punishments. National hubs. We need a monitored and national social media platform for eternal dialogue where Nigerians can air grievances privately without exposing the nation's dirty laundry to the laughter of foreign powers. Nigeria as a nation should have their own social media hub, which should be limited to the Nigerian citizens only, with a strict sign up and login with the Nigerian identity card digits. Everything about that app should be restricted from circulating across other social media apps. It should be programmed in a way that all the citizens of the country with ID cards can sign up or log in. This will help to stop falsehood and propaganda. Political leaders should be part of it. It will enable them to be alert to what is happening across the nation and to hear some of the complaints of the people they are rolling over. Youth spend times in crimes and other meaningless things because they have nothing to do. They saw the internet as the only source of making income. They felt the only way they can make money is through the internet. That's why there is a mass spread of falsehood and propaganda today. To stop this, government should capture the youth by creating more industries. Get them to be productive than wasting time on meaningless things. Make them to spend less of their time on internet and more of it on productions. Each nation should have a social media app that can only be used by members of the nation wholly, and it should be monitored by governments. This app will help youths to engage with one another, gain more exposure, and to avoid exposing the nation's dirty lily outside for other nations to see and to laugh at the nation. This app will help Nigerians to air their opinions within the Nigerian borders. Here is the prophetic counsel to Nigeria. I mean the way out for a sustainable peace. This is my prayer that this message gets across to the political leaders of Nigeria and for them to understand the political wisdom that God is passing across to them. For God rules in the affairs of men. Shalom.